Are you in Chicago?
I am. It's raining.
All right.
It's been a very stormy week.
Oh, well, that's very fitting considering the topic of many of your songs. So there you go.
It is, yeah. I had my release shows on Saturday, and there were two tornadoes during the day.
Did you plan that? Do you have these powers?
I wish.
Because I know there are at least two tornadoes mentioned in the song. So, and I saw that you were doing shows this weekend, which is a great thing because people have been so locked down and nobody's doing shows. It's great to ask somebody how their show was. So, how was your show?
It was magnificent. It was such a release, like just to be able to be in a room with people and not be scared and just share the music and like have that energy and tension and like interaction.
Yeah.
It felt so much better than playing to an iPhone camera, which is
Right.
what I've been doing for the past year and a half.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it was really incredible, and just saw like there were just so many friends and fans, and like it was most people there, it was their first show since the pandemic.
Right. So, do you feel like a change, something has shifted? We're kind of moved on past things.
I don't know. I think it depends with these variants,
Yeah.
but the show was like that proof of vaccination required.
Oh, right. Okay.
So I think things like that will keep happening throughout the summer,
Yep.
and who knows what'll happen in a few months with vaccines and variants and all of that. But
Yeah.
I think for now, people should take advantage of
Definitely.
the ability to have safe events and
Yeah.
to be able to safely gather. And like, it's
Yep.
such an important part of being a person, a
Yes,
human.
indeed. Yes, indeed. I mean, here in New Zealand, we've been doing this for a while now because we did have
Mhm.
lockdown, but it was much briefer than yours. And
Yeah.
and we've had a couple of minor incidents since then. But for the most part, I'll go to a show tonight, tomorrow night, and the next night. And not
Wow.
too much of it. I went to a crowded house show where there were 12,000 people in a big stadium, and there was a band called 660 who played at a bigger stadium. I think they had 50,000 people there. So it was
Wow.
like the big deal because it was like the only place on the planet that this was happening at the time. So, yeah, people need to do this stuff.
I agree. I think like I don't know, I've seen some people, not about like me or my show, but just people tend to like go on social media and be like, people shouldn't be having shows or like doing events. And yeah, people shouldn't be doing it in an unsafe way,
Right.
but there's simply nothing wrong with having like a fully vaxxed concert inside, in my opinion. And I think for the health and happiness of people, it's just so important.
So tell me about the show. Who'd you have playing with you? What did you
Yeah.
do? What
So
was
I did two concerts. I did an early show and a late show,
right?
and the early show was opened by Mia Joy, who's a really amazing musician here in Chicago. The late
Uh-huh.
show was opened by Kara Jackson, who's another amazing musician here in Chicago. And I've been huge fans of both of theirs for a while. And yeah, it was really, really special to be able to share a stage with them. And yeah, I played with my band, I played the album front to back,
All right.
and did not do an encore at the early show and did an encore at the late show.
Okay.
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
good.
it was inside. It was each show was like kind of spaced out. It was seated, which was interesting. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't just like a normal like standing room
Yeah.
show. Um,
And is that
yeah.
different for you as a performer? Is there a difference when the audience is more sedate?
Yes, I felt more powerful, and it was like it was nice to have people slightly farther from the stage because I couldn't see anyone's face.
Ah,
It was like complete darkness, and there are always people in the front row at a show, and you make eye contact with them, and it's kind of fun because it's that moment of connection, but it
Right.
can also be distracting.
Yeah, but
Honestly.
then you're stuck with them.
Exactly. Like then you're stuck with them, and you like, if people are crying, you hear them crying and you
Oh,
see them crying, and it's
oh,
just
no.
like just back up.
So if I'm not mistaken, you're relatively new in Chicago, are you? Did you just move there recently? So,
Yeah, I've lived here since March of this year.
oh, yeah, that's a new.
Yeah, I basically was like, I was living with my parents in Boston, and then I went to England, and then I was living in a different house in Boston, and then I decided like, I don't know, like I wanted to move to Chicago for a few years, had been
Right.
thinking about it a lot, and like always had felt like I had a lot of friends here. And I moved in March mainly because my like a lot of my musical collaborators live here, but also I was like, trying to take advantage of the time where touring isn't happening again quite yet,
Yep.
but the pandemic is over enough that I can like have fun in a city.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I'm just trying to like take advantage of living a slightly normal life before I have to be on the road constantly again.
And you wisely chose to wait until winter was over in Chicago to move.
Exactly.
Man, I
Oh,
was there once, and whoa, in the dead of winter, it was so cold.
they do not fuck around with winter here.
That is a fact.
But
Now you might,
summer is lovely. It's
sure.
just like
Yeah.
I just bike to the lake all the time. It's so hot and humid, which I love, to be honest. Yeah.
Now you mentioned that you did live in England briefly. I assume that was during the time that you made the record Planet I.
Yes.
So tell me how that process took place.
Um, I still kind of can't believe I went to England to make it. I So basically last summer I had these demos. I had about 30 demos, and I had been spending the months leading up to the start of the pandemic and then the whole kind of lockdown making these demos and refining them and adding production elements and thinking about the way the album was going to come together, and but also not quite knowing how it would come together, but knowing that there was an album there, and I guess sort of sculpting it out of these like 30 demos.
Right.
And I was speaking with some producers over the phone to just like see if there was anybody I resonated with and clicked with. And Ali Chant reached out to my manager, I think, and was just saying that he was a fan of my music and wondering if I had anything new in the works. And it turns out I did. So he and I spoke on the phone, and I felt pretty bummed after because it was such a lovely experience talking with him initially, and it felt like we really clicked creatively, but it was sort of like we hung up, and it was sort of just okay, maybe in a couple years, like
Right, right.
post pandemic. That's sad. See you later. But I actually got coronavirus like the week after that happened.
That's what I thought. I read
So,
that you had gotten it. So
yeah, I got it.
congratulations for surviving.
Thank you. I feel like at this point in the US, it's not rare. I feel like 1 in 3 people have had it.
Really?
It's
Yeah.
just part of life. Like
Right.
a lot of people, it's pretty common to have had it and gotten over it, which is bizarre to think about. But
Yep.
I got it. I felt like it freed up my own comfortability in terms of traveling.
Right.
And the borders were open. Like the border from between the US and the UK was open. It was kind of the only border
That's the only place you could go, huh?
exactly, because they were both like just not taking as serious precautions as most other places.
Yep.
So they kind of had a nice little country pod of lots of COVID cases.
Right.
But yeah,
Good
so
for creativity, but not great for the health.
exactly. So But yeah, so I had antibodies. I flew over. I
Right.
masked up. I was just like super careful and quarantined for a couple weeks when I first got there, because that was the law.
Yep.
And then Allie and I just dove in, and it was for the most part it was the two of us in the studio together. The way it most of the songs happened was I would do like a solo take with guitar and voice, and then we'd go in and layer and layer and layer and experiment and try different things. Um, and then like a couple or like 4 days we had a drummer, Matt Brown, in the studio, and he
Right.
most of that was recorded as a layer as well, so it wasn't recorded live. And
And this was all in Bristol, is that right?
this was all in Bristol, yeah, in Southwest England. Beautiful, amazing, perfect city. Honestly, it's incredible there. Um, and then we went to Adrian Utley's studio one morning for like half a day, and he basically brought all of the stems over on like a hard drive,
Right.
and we went to his studio, which was on like the fifth floor of his like very tall, very classic like British building, and you can see the whole city from the top. And his studio was like pretty small, but just full of synths and old guitars and like signed Moogs, and it
Right.
was just crazy. And he recorded guitar and synth parts over some of the songs.
Right. And were you a big Portishead fan?
Um, I would not call myself a big Portishead fan. I'm a big Adrian Utley fan now after
There you
working with him.
go.
Like, he's just such a sweet man, and we got along so well. And I don't know, the way I think like at this point in his career, like the way that he's reimagining what a guitar can do is really powerful.
Right.
He was like playing guitar by like bowing pliers across the string, and like a string instrument, which
Yep.
technically it is.
Yes, it is.
And, he does like those guitar orchestras, and yeah, he's one of those musicians who's so unrigid and so exploratory and experimental, and really just like playing. And that's something he and Allie had in common, and
Right.
and something I really loved about working with both of them was just the amount of play that took place in the studio. And it was just fun and positive, and there was no tension really, or no negative tension, at least.
Very good. Well, it looks like a storm has broken out here in Auckland as I'm speaking to you.
Is it contagious or what?
It's raining.
That's just not even funny. Oh my God.
But
I think, either Mother Nature is trying to be like, yeah, you're going to write an album and say that you're not scared of the storm and try and get over it. Let me show you like how scary I can be. Or it's like Mother Nature kind of honoring
yeah,
the record, which
Yeah.
I like better.
there you go. Well, there's been quite a bit written about the record on two fronts. There's the whole Mother Nature storm tornado side of things, and then the fact that it's called Planet I, and supposedly there's a concept around starting a new planet and
Yeah, I think
I was wondering how much there was truth to any of that.
yeah, I think press usually they pick out a part of the bio and they run with it,
Right.
And it's like I always like, or like sometimes I read things, I'm like, that's just not true
At all.
really at all. That was like a very small part of it, was like the idea of like another planet, but Planet I is mainly referring to this planet, and also like my internal world. And because the whole album is really about painting a picture of the natural world in the way it relates to my personal internal world. So Planet I felt like a good name for that relationship, or just the world of the album, really. Like that's what it is. Planet I is the world of the record, of those 12 songs, and to me the 30 demos that went into it, and the songs that didn't make it onto the record either, really.
Are they still floating around waiting to be done something too? Yeah.
They're floating. I was thinking about it today. Of course, it's like 3 days after I released the biggest record I've ever done, and it's on to I gotta think about what I can do with these other songs, and like
Right.
immediately looking towards the next thing, which part of me is like, just chill, just relax.
Easier said than
But
done sometimes.
definitely, and yeah, I do want to share the demos in some way.
Right. Now, one of the songs, probably the one that's you've done a video for, is called "Her to Fly," which, from what I understand, when you were writing it, you kind of took on a persona for a change, some other character, and writing through that character who's somewhat of a narcissist. So, what was that like for you to be able to do that?
Should I took you too far again? You thought I was your friend, but I just got the wrong idea in the morning, and I'm never wrong.
Fun.
Yeah.
I really love like writing. I did it a bit with like past music. My song Conditions that I released in 2016 was a similar way of writing, of me like embodying somebody else and writing from their perspective, or like writing things that have been said to me as opposed to things that I hold as truths or things that I've said to other people. And I think it can be a really empowering way of writing, because especially if you're writing about like somebody or multiple people who have harmed you, kind of going into their shoes and being like just dripping with sarcasm and writing a song from their perspective while eviscerating them can be very fun and empowering. Yeah.
And satisfying too, I'm sure.
Yes, exactly. Very satisfying.
Very good. Another tune that there's also a video for is "Flames and Flat Tires," which looks like the video was shot mostly at nighttime in the dark. And I was wondering why you did that, and what was the backstory behind the making of the video.
This car won't drive the way I want. Busted engine or busted lung. Kicking myself for buying those parts off of that guy back in Des Moines before the drought started. But I'll get it fixed up soon enough, and you'd better watch out for me. Flying down the road in flames and flat tires, baby.
Well, the video, the director of the video is this director named Lua who lives in Chicago, and that was our first video together, and we are making another video together now.
For which one?
Roadkill. It's coming out later in the summer.
Great.
But yeah, working with her it felt like such a good collaboration. Like, she wanted to roll with this concept of destruction and sort of capturing the feeling of dusk, and fire, and that sort of like desolation in an urban context. So that really was the idea behind the video.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there is quite a bit of guitar and noise, and you kind of build things up, and there's dynamics in there. But they're like on the final track on Starshine, there's a very intimate feeling, a very intimate vocal. And I was wondering what kind of environment you were in when you sang that. Were you by yourself in the studio with the lights down? Were other people around coaching you? That's a good take.
What?
That's not. How was it?
You are the star, and the stars shine, and I'm loving your moons.
Well, no. It's so I like never have that sort of thing going on, like my experiences recording are always like like I don't have co-writers, I don't have like vocal coaches or whatever.
Right.
It's funny you say turn the lights down, because I think we did. I think I had done a few takes and it just wasn't clicking, and I was like, hey Ali, can we turn all of the lights off? And he did. And I mean, the studio felt intimate anyways. It was sort of just one room, so it didn't feel sterile. It felt very cozy. There were trinkets everywhere and percussion and photos and coffee and a nice couch and just like old instruments, and it felt special. But I also did record the take for that song that we kept towards the end of the sessions. So at the end of the 3 weeks we spent recording. So I definitely was feeling very comfortable. Sorry, that's a siren outside.
I'm just looking up because the rain is really pouring down now. I can hear it.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, it is winter here, so we do get that, but still, it was fine a little earlier.
But yeah, at that point, I knew Ali very well. We had become honestly just close friends in the time we worked together. So I think that comes through as well. But when I demoed it in my bedroom, and it definitely captured that just the intimacy of feeling like you're like somebody's singing into your ear. Right.
Yeah.
And I wanted to capture that in the studio, which is much harder to do than when you're just alone in your most comfortable environment that you have,
Yep. So you mentioned that this was kind of your biggest album to date, and so with that in mind, how are you proceeding, or how are you thinking of moving forward from here?
That's a good question, and it's something, obviously touring it. Yeah. I'm gonna promote the album the way you promote the album, which is to tour and do the press and all of that. And I really am so excited to tour these songs. But in terms of looking forward creatively, I've begun a conversation with myself about what the next thing is, because it feels like a turning point, and whatever I end up doing, it won't be in a very similar sonic wheelhouse. Right. Whether that's further embracing like minimalism and kind of ambient influences, or going electronic sort of. I feel like creatively pulled in many different directions. So yeah.
Feel like the world is your oyster at this point, though? Because I know you had some health issues in the back, and stuff happened, and now you've kind of come through the other side, so it's got to feel good at this point, and especially
it does. I feel less like the world is my oyster in that in a feeling of being like excited to go and do a million more things, and more just like kind of pride and like a sense of release after working just like relentlessly hard on this album over the past year, throughout like emotional turmoil because of the pandemic. And I just put like literally everything I had into it. Yeah. And I know the work is not over, but I feel like if the world is an oyster, the album is throughout the oyster, and that's an amazing feeling.
Fantastic. That's great. Well, you have to come down here and play if you get a chance. We'd love to have you.
I know. Oh my gosh, I would love to. I've never been over there.
Right now, again, you have to wait 2 weeks in isolation, and if you do get in the
country, I foresee that making it difficult to tour internationally, because that just like financially would be so difficult.
Hopefully they'll get to the point where they feel comfortable with people who have had vaccinations.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think we will get to that point. I'm going to Europe in 2022. It's not announced yet, but I'm very optimistic that I will come to your part of the world at some point soon. Yeah.
Come in the summertime though.
Right. My winter.
Yeah, exactly. January and February is really nice. All righty. Well, thank you very much for talking to me. I really
Yeah, thank
appreciate
you
it.
so much. It was nice to chat.
Yep. Have a great
All
day.
right. Bye, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.